Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships, and it's by user JG78. My 28 female husband, 36 male, doesn't understand the difference between a stay-at-home mom and me working at home after we had the baby, and it's causing problems. I have never made a ton of money, but I have always made enough and felt like my work was worthwhile. I work as a graphic designer for an alternative publication, not the highest paying gig in my field, but a good work atmosphere. I also used to freelance web design before we recently had the baby, but it's been too busy since I got pregnant to do much freelance work. I can do both old school graphic design and web design and have a good portfolio. We have been together for 8 years, married for 5. I was very lucky when we got pregnant, although our daughter was very planned. I was considering different work options to stay with the baby, and my boss basically said, keep your same job, same pay, and work from home if you want, plus 3 months of paid maternity leave. My paper also gives us pretty awesome healthcare. The baby is on my healthcare, not my husband's, because he's as mediocre, but mine is like basically the best. Almost no copays, everything you can imagine is covered, down to acupuncture and hypnosis even, etc. So that was a plus. I also never wanted to stop working entirely because I value my independence and my job is also a creative outlet for me. My husband makes a lot more than I do, always has since I've known him, as he was already in his firm when we met, and just made partner at his firm around the same time we found out we were pregnant. He has always worked long hours, but actually has been able to work a little less since making a partner. So he's down to 55 hours a week. He's been as high as 80 before when we met, but it's kind of steadily declined. His job is high stress, big law basically, but he does really enjoy it from what he says. We had our baby girl 4 months ago and she is adorable and awesome. We're very happy, except I've been back working properly just this month. No pressure to do so, but I heard about them since my workmates are also my friends, and I offered to help out a few times. It has been harder than I thought, mainly because I'm basically doing 2 jobs at once. I'd figure you can imagine it'd be harder than normally working to also have a baby that needs stuff. Our baby is actually a really good baby, and she isn't the neediest, or at the neediest age, which worries me for the future, but it's still harder to maintain focus, etc. Our house is an effing wreck, and my sister suggested I look into a maid service since we are really struggling since the baby has come. I used to do the majority of the chores, but my husband helped out when I was very pregnant and couldn't get around well. He basically stopped again when the baby was born. Since I used to get home before him and leave after him, his long days, I used to do basically everything but the dishes. We always ate out a fair amount. I cook half the nights, takeout or restaurant half the nights. But we live under our means in most areas, so that was never considered a big expense. I'm not the world's greatest cook. The bathrooms, counters, laundry, etc. all fell to me, but it was a lot easier before the baby. My normally nice, calm, loving husband flipped out and got very stubborn when I approached him with the maid service option. They'd come 1 time a week and it'd be $75 weekly, but if we paid by the month, it would be only $250. He said basically, why would a stay-at-home mom need a maid service? I tried to point out I'm still working. I'm a work-at-home mom, not a stay-at-home mom, but he said it should be easier to do my work at home than in office, so he didn't see what had changed. Maybe when our daughter was making messes, but he thought getting a maid service would just discourage me from getting into the swing of things again. He even suggested it'd put me at risk for postpartum depression, which I don't have any symptoms of, thank goodness. So I thought maybe he was really stressed when we first talked about it and it was just bad timing. I tried 2 more times and he seems to toe the same line. I suggested he start picking up more chores then, and he doesn't see why things would change. We had a baby, things change. I don't really understand him not getting that. We talked about some changes but never a maid or the chores, so I guess this is poor planning. It's worth noting, 1. My husband is understanding of the mess and not complaining about it. He sees it as a temporary adjustment period. 2. My husband spends time with our daughter and is bonding with her, I think. And he does give me some me time regularly, which I appreciate. We're still breastfeeding now, so I'm tethered to the house or baby a lot, but he is being a very engaged and active dad when he's home, and he is trying to be home as much as he can. 3. My husband didn't yell. He did become frustrated and unreasonable, but he is never rude or abusive. He just doesn't understand my reasoning or need here. 4. We have the money, we live well below our means, and we won't be traveling this year, we usually do. And the baby won't cost nearly as much as our trips usually costs, so we have extra money in addition this year. The delivery cost us literally nothing as my health insurance is that good. This is rare, I think, from what I've heard. And I lost no income except a little less freelance work, which we always treated as extra anyway. I am worried about 2 things. 1, the messy house in the short term and finding a solution. But 2, the fact that my husband doesn't see a need for things to change due to a baby and doesn't seem to realize how hard it is to do my work all day and be a mom all day just because I can do it in my pajamas. For example, trying to figure out when I can get a shower, if I want one before my husband gets home at 7 p.m. or if I don't get up early enough before he leaves at 7 a.m. is like solving an effing Rubik's Cube. My days are much harder now. I love my baby and I'm happy to be with her. I'm just saying, and I feel like he has no concept. Well, OP, in my opinion, this is a problem of communication and not about sitting down, but actually relaying the proper message. There's a baby in the equation now, and something's gotta give. Time is not elastic, and there's just so many things that you can do with it, right? Your priorities used to be, from what I understand, work and housework. But now it's baby, work, and housework. And you're absolutely right, the baby does demand a lot of time and attention. So in this case, the housework is what has to give. Now, from what you tell us, your husband sounds like a sensible man, he would understand if he gets the proper message. So maybe try to have a sit down with him again and explain to him that you just can't do it all and it's overwhelming you and you do need some help. Now, there is one thing that kind of jumped at me and I don't have an answer for, and it's the fact that he said that not cleaning could send you into a postpartum depression thing, but you also said that he's never rude or anything, so that doesn't seem to be some sort of sarcastic comment or a dig at you. I don't know what to make of that, but I wanted to bring it up. And what do you guys think? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Apples, apples, apples. Can you give him a day where he has to do everything he expects of you? My husband and I had a similar problem. He just didn't realize how hard it is to be home with the baby all day and get anything else done. I tried working at home too and ended up quitting my job because it was just way too much. Then one day he helped me out and looked at me and said, "There's no way you can do this and work at the same time." It also helped for him to hear from other new moms just how hard it is. I think he thought it was just me having a hard time and that most women would be able to handle it fine. Hearing from others that my frustration was completely normal helped. You're sleep deprived, your hormones are still trying to get back to normal, and your baby is constantly interrupting your work. Ask him to work from home and take care of the baby one day, only bringing her to you to nurse, and he'll definitely be more understanding. And OP responds, yeah, he has never actually been alone in the house with the baby yet. He's taken the baby so I could get rest. So this is a good point. Posts with Fury says, okay, you need to nip this in the bud right now. Your husband doesn't respect your work. He doesn't see it as working. He thinks you should handle 90% of the childcare, all the chores and work. And that's a fair division of labor. You are understanding how big of an issue this is. If he doesn't get a wake-up call, this marriage is on a dangerous trajectory. In order to demonstrate this to him, perhaps keep a diary of all the things, work, chores, childcare you do in a day and add up how much time it takes. Then show him how that compares to his. Otherwise, I'd insist on couples counseling. This isn't about the maid, it's a fundamental question of respect and division of responsibilities that you must address. And OP responds, the log is a very good idea. He's a lawyer, so he logs his work daily and he will be more likely to get it that way. That's a very good idea and something I will definitely do. The problem is, I literally can't fit housework in to log it. He thinks it takes me no time, like I'm Superwoman or something. Right now, I'm not even close to Superwoman. I'm like sleep-deprived woman. A lot of it isn't even the time, but the physical exhaustion. Like right now, I guess I could go scrub a toilet, but I feel like I can barely stand. Spectrum 2081 says, approach him with how hard it is and that the $250 a month is so much cheaper than you quitting work. Something like, honey, I am running on very little sleep feeding the baby every 2 to 3 hours around the clock. I have deadlines that get pushed back. I have to deal with crying and diapers while I try to work. I can't do all the household chores, all the baby care, and keep working full time. We can afford $250 per month, much more than my becoming a stay-at-home mom. And that's not what I want anyway. But I also want a clean house. This would do wonders for my mental health and well-being. And when you make such a firm stance against hiring a maid service, frankly, I feel really unappreciated and taken for granted. I feel like you might not realize that my days are really draining. I feel like you think I'm just being lazy. I hope I'm wrong, so why are you so staunchly against a maid service? I want to hear you out. And Dopey responds, thanks, I think this might be a better way than I approached it. I approached it more rationally, but if he knows it's about showing he values me and my time and my needs, he may be more reasonable. I realize in reading what you wrote that I may not have been clear, sleep-deprived brain, in painting that picture well either. Additional information from OP's comments. He may have some hang-ups about help, as he makes good money now, but his parents are fairly poor. We help them out now too, so they've got a decent place. So maybe that's why the weird reaction. And no, my husband has no idea of how a home functions. His bachelor pad was a mess when I met him, and it's always fallen to me to keep up the house. I've never minded before because I'd always had the time and it gave me something to do while he was working, but things have changed with our little girl coming. To be fair, I don't think it has anything to do with me being a woman, but most of it has to do with me being the person who taught him to clean things. I literally took him out to buy cleaning products when we were dating. He has gotten way better and he does do all the dishes and properly, but my husband is a semi-reformed slob. He's never expressed the idea that men are bad at cleaning or women are better, and he's pointed out how other men are better at it than him sometimes. His former college roommate, who was his best man, has horror stories, and my husband would probably say he's better and faster at cleaning too. One of the options we looked at was me staying at home, but neither of us seemed to prefer that. The better idea was for me to get a job I could do from home. My husband was as happy as I was when we learned I could keep my current job but be home with our daughter. He's never suggested I quit, but we did talk together about options and he's always been supportive of any option. I make good middle class money, but not big law money, lol. Also, he doesn't think of our money as his money. All our money is shared. I do the household budget, but we always talk about new expenses first. I don't want to go nuclear and pull the "I make money too, I'll pay for this with my money" option or down that road necessarily, as I don't want us to suddenly start fighting over money too. I also don't think it's the money that concerns him. I think another problem is my husband is okay with housework not getting done. As I said, his bachelor pad was really nasty when I met him, but I find it really distracting to have a messy house and infant and try to get my work done in the messy house, so it's a bigger priority for me. If he were bugging me to do the housework pronto, we would have a serious talk. But his view is more, honey, you'll get to it. This will all get easier. You're at home now. How great is that? Don't let yourself get down and depressed and stuck. You'll be back to your old self in no time. And I think he doesn't quite get the reality of our life now, even though he is engaging as a dad. He usually works Saturday mornings from home, so I could try having him watch the baby then, but I really wouldn't want to mess up his work. It's very high pressure, high stress, high stakes. So I don't imagine he'd last an hour. The thing is, my work, while not irrelevant, legitimately is not as stressful or difficult to me as his is to him, or would be to me. And we both know it. He's a big law lawyer with dyslexia, which means his job is to read things quickly, and he has a learning disorder that makes things harder, so it is a constant challenge, though he has a great memory which helps. Okay, well, the community gave some okay advice, and I think OP gave us a lot more context to understand their dynamic. So now that we know everything we needed to know, let's move on with the update to see how this story ends. I wanted to post a quick update and say thank you to those who gave helpful comments. I'm still not sure why so many comments and PMs sent that I'm stealing from my employer or poorly raising my child because I'm working from home while she's there. My employer is well aware and fine with whatever I do as long as I make meetings once or twice a week via Skype and meet deadlines and so forth, and I thought I'd made that clear in my last post. I utilized a combination of the good ideas I got. I did make a log of just 3 days since I didn't talk to my husband until the weekend anyway. It was a busy week for him, and I left him alone with the baby on Saturday, pumped, and went to my sister's. I had to come back after a few hours because she got a fever. Very low grade, but we went to the clinic together just in case because she's a baby. Anyways, everything's fine. So my timing sucked. I also just talked to my husband with more emotion about the state of the house and how I felt, and had him read a text someone sent me about men and women and chores. He basically did a complete 180 and said I should get as much housekeeping as I need, that he was sorry, etc. Apparently, he thought I liked doing chores all the time. To his credit, I do say things like expressing satisfaction or anticipating how awesome it's going to be in the end when I've reorganized something or done some big chores or I'm planning to, but it's because A, I like things clean, and B, I find it encourages me to do these not fun things and make them more tolerable. My husband doesn't understand this at all and took it as though I actually enjoy the chores themselves. He basically thought I was giving up a hobby. I explained in the last post that my husband is a semi-reformed slob, and he basically doesn't get that even people who keep their houses in the very clean and spotless range don't necessarily enjoy the chores. So he was worried it was a sign of some kind of depression or something that I wanted to hand this off. And he also just didn't think the house was that messy that it was anything to worry about, since we didn't have mold or bugs. Again, semi-reformed slob. He actually apologized for leaving so much of the housework on me for so long due to such misunderstandings. But he worked so many more hours, I never needed correcting that, and made me promise to express if he's doing so again in the future. And he's even done smaller things to be neater lately. So we are getting a maid service, and hopefully my life will be a little bit easier. It was also nice to hear that he understood I wasn't staying at home and that any hours I was saving from work were being easily sponged up by our little girl. I know it sounds weird, but my husband also doesn't have hobbies. His work is his hobby. I doubt he would have time for a hobby, but even unrelated to work, the law is basically his love and hobby. I'm sure our baby and I inch ahead a tiny bit, but not by much, you know? That's how much he adores his work. So thinking something other people do just because they have to would equate to a hobby is not that weird for him because, so to him, thinking something other people do because they have to would equate to a hobby. And this is not that weird for him because he knows other people work because they have to, but finds it weird they can't find a job they like. My husband is brilliant in some areas, but very strange in others. Alright, OP, I'm gonna count this as a happy update. Communication wins again. With the proper message though. And I totally understand what you mean. I'm a neat freak myself, but I really hate doing chores, although I have to, and I do pump myself up like, oh, it's gonna look so good or it's gonna be so clean, so I totally get you. Anyways, thanks for sharing, OP, and take care. All the best to the three of you. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I really did enjoy reading them to you. So if you did, then don't be shy and go ahead and give the video a like. And don't forget to subscribe or even share this video with people that you might think will enjoy my storytelling. Also, if you have the time, go down to the video description and check out all the links I have for you, from our Discord community to my channel merch. And finally, I'd like to say thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me that you enjoy my videos. And having said all that, I'll see you guys in the next video.